how it goes.
Good luck.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Plus, we're both wearing red.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the Odd Topic Podcast. This is episode number 57. I'm here at Wonderland with the owner, Shaun. Say hello to the people.
Hey, everybody.
Yo. So, one of my first questions I have for you is like, how did Wonderland come about? How did you think of the name? Was it always like a dream of yours to have, you know?
Yeah, man. So 5 years ago is when we started the shop. I had been a high school teacher for about going on almost 20 years, and then the pandemic hit,
Mhm.
and I was like, it is time for a change. So, so my hobby was collecting stuff. I had a booth, so I have like 50 some vendors, in my store. I
Oh.
was a vendor at another antique mall. So actually I had two. So I had a booth, one in town and I had one in Appleton.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that kind of started me on having a booth, reselling, kind of collecting stuff. Got to have a place to sell it,
Yeah.
So
Did you have to
um,
like pay like other people to sell your stuff?
so I rented a space.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I rented a space just like everybody does. Vendors come to me, they rent a space, we sell their stuff, we pay them, and that's what I did. And I always was curious because I've been in antique malls my whole life. So I
Mhm.
thought they were cool.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, well, this would be cool to have a booth. And yeah, so it just when the pandemic hit, I started feeling like I'm ready for a change, get out of teaching. The world was changing at that
It
time,
was pretty bad, yeah.
right? So I actually had a booth next door, the business next door, Uniquely Yours. I had a booth over there, and her and I got to talking one day, the owner, and this building was empty.
Mhm.
And I was like, this would be a sick antique mall. And she was like, you should do it. It'd be awesome. We'd have two of them right here in our parking lot. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So that's pretty much
Yeah,
how the
really?
idea came up. Yeah, it happened very quickly. Yep. It took us about 30 days to build out everything in there, all the booths.
Yeah, I seem like it's like a whole. You made it like all yourself too.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like kind of just, it was, I mean, friends and family pitched in to help build out all the booth spaces. And otherwise, me and my wife, my kids, my sister Lisa helped a ton to launch the place, worked for us. And yeah, so it was just a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from the family. We did it all
Yeah.
from ground up.
And like, what were like the struggles, first starting up? You'd say.
Well, learning how to run a business,
Mhm.
so, um, and all small business owners kind of know what that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things you have to understand, your financial structure. You have to figure out inventory.
Mhm.
You have to figure out your marketing and the branding and there's just all the kind of basic stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a lemonade stand uh, in a small concept, but a huge version of a lemonade stand, I kind of call it.
Mhm.
But so that we didn't have a lot of experience. My wife and I were both educators for 20 years at this point.
Mhm.
So it was just a big leap of faith, and we were like, we like to learn stuff. I have wanted to own my own business since I was probably your age, younger than you, probably in my
Wow.
20s. I was like, yeah, I thought I wanted to do something, and just didn't know what really.
Mhm.
Back in the '90s when I graduated high school, I thought I'd be a graphic designer. Actually, I have an art background, so I
Oh,
thought I
okay.
thought I would maybe start a graphic design business. And so yeah, I always had this entrepreneurial kind of spirit, and and we were just like, let's go for it. And so thank God my wife was like, hey, I trust you, go for it,
Mhm.
and there it is.
Yeah. It's been crazy ever since.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
what kind of stuff do you say that you guys like sell mostly? Like,
Well, we have, I think the cool thing about my store is we have a really wide variety of stuff.
Mhm.
Literally, I wanted to make a place that you could, a young kid and their grandma could come,
Mhm.
and everybody in between, So my mom is 81 right now, and I wanted to make a place that my mom could come shop at,
Mhm.
and that my students at the time, which were high school kids, right,
Yeah.
would think is cool. So that was literally kind of my thought process. I just so you know that was the motivation for getting all of our vendors and having such a wide array of vendors, so you gotta, they're good vendors
Hmm.
make a store like that good.
Yeah.
I'm obviously one of the vendors. I have a lot of stuff. I'm a bit of a picker collector myself, but yeah, I really just try to get the best people I could, people that have good inventory, had the same vision uh, that I have for kind of a modern version of an antique mall,
Yeah.
which is, I don't know, what do you think? Did we do it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it adapts to like every single, generation. You sell like records,
Hmm.
you have, comic books there.
Yep.
You even you even have like some like clothing there too. I
Yeah.
seen like
A lot of clothing. We have probably one of the biggest um, collections of vintage clothing in town.
yeah.
I would say vendors. We have like 10 vintage clothing vendors, I think, total, or 8 to 10. And
Wow.
so we have a big footprint of vintage clothes. So that's huge. Um, we do have everything like housewares, furniture,
Mhm.
art. We cover all eras, literally from antique. Antique is technically something that's 100 years old,
Mhm.
and vintage is technically something that's like 20. Would be you. That's how you use those words.
Mhm.
But we do have everything from 100 years ago. I mean, we got stuff that you can find something from all eras.
Yeah.
We probably have a lot of stuff more from the kind of 60s, 70s, even 80s.
Mhm.
Like that more modern vintage, I guess I would call it. Um, but yeah, yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I see
Kind of
you have
makes it
like
fun.
a jukebox in there too.
Yep,
That's
yep,
really cool.
yep. We got a cool, really cool jukebox. Old school gas and oil signs.
Yeah.
I'm really into those. A lot of those are from the 1920s, 30s, 40s. Um, all the vintage clothing is basically stuff from, I would say, kind of 60s, 70s. A lot of it is 90s
Yeah.
vintage. Um, so yeah, we got a lot going on. If you don't find some, it's your own fault.
What would you say is like your most joyous moment about like owning a business? What do you love the
um,
most about it?
yeah, I think it's just being in control of your own time. Although we're busy, the store makes us busy, but it's ours.
Yeah.
So everything we do is kind of for us, and for our vendors, and so the nice thing is you don't have a corporate structure
Mhm.
where you have to be in your office doing something and it's time schedule. Although it kind of becomes that way when you have a successful business because you're going to be busy doing a lot of different things.
Mhm.
So, but it's fun. It was literally just this labor of love, and the best part of it is people walk in every day and find something cool and appreciate that,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I found this item," and they're stoked, and it's just like that's kind of makes it all worth it
Yeah.
to me. So, um, yeah, it's it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of good work.
Mhm.
So you're not if you start your own business, you're gonna work harder than you ever did in your life.
That's
But
true. Yeah.
but it's just more rewarding,
Mhm.
So
Doesn't necessarily feel like a job.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, really, no matter what you do or who you go to work for, if you're doing something you love, yeah, it doesn't feel like work. So, I mean, I had a blast teaching. I felt like that was a natural fit for me. And it was great. And all my students would probably agree that we had fun,
Mhm.
and so um, for that phase of my life, I was, you know, it was a fun career, fun job,
Mhm.
um, just like this is now. So, yeah. So kind of different, but very rewarding to run your own show, but a lot to learn, a lot
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but look at this. I get to do
Yeah.
podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Drink coffee, hang out with Cody.
Oh yeah. What was like your most favorite thing about teaching too? Because you said you
Um,
teach art. Art
yep.
is really fun to do.
Yeah, I taught high school
Yeah.
art. Yeah, art's awesome. In my room, we played a lot of music.
Okay.
Um, it was definitely a real social class. Um, but I think my favorite thing is just like inspiring kids, getting to know kids, making connections, and having students who felt like they had someone on their side, kind of, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Somebody who would listen to them and just kind of an advocate. So that was the most rewarding part. Working with kids was great, inspiring them to make something really cool that they didn't think they could.
Hmm.
So we had a lot of celebrations for making cool stuff, and I tried to make it as fun as I could, and so I don't know. I feel like I did that. I feel accomplished with that. I enjoyed it, and I think they all enjoyed it. A lot of people tell me they enjoyed it, former students. So that was a win. It was a very good time in my life, and I don't regret it for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really led me to where I am now. So yeah, you just get old, and then you're like, what do I want to do? What do I got to do in my life? Oh yeah, I got to open an antique mall.
Yeah.
So you're just trying different things,
Yeah.
and that's kind of my personality too.
Mhm.
Um,
That's good to try new things.
absolutely.
That's what I've been trying to do. Like I used to suck at talking to new people.
Yeah,
Now I do this and meet new people all the time. Meet
you
some
got
new
to get
friends.
out and do
Yeah,
it, man.
gotta just go
Absolutely.
do
You,
it.
you get an idea and you start doing it. Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're 5 years in and we're just totally figuring a lot of stuff out. So, that's how crazy it is when you own your own business. And then, you're lucky to have some success and stuff. You can get busy real quick.
Yeah.
It takes time, Even like, I actually think back to when I was a teacher, and I think they kind of say like it takes, typically maybe 5 to even 7 years of teaching to get kind of good at it.
Mm.
Um, and that was kind of known in education. You're a new teacher for a while, and I really applied all that here. It's just the same thing. So you just got to keep putting yourself out there, keep growing, keep learning. Um, this kind of stuff's easy for me because every day we're dealing with new stuff.
Yeah.
We help people get rid of stuff and deal with estate stuff. I do a lot of estate work, so that's where a lot of stuff comes from. So, but you have to you get to learn about it. It's like, what is this stuff? What era is this stuff from?
Mhm.
How old is this? What is it? What's it worth?
Yeah.
So that's a daily thing. That'll never end. So, and it's fun. It can get a little bit like exhausting,
I believe you. Yeah.
but I'm a curious guy. I like to learn about stuff. I love history, so I love art
Yeah.
and pop culture. So
It's always growing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always
Never ends.
adaptive.
We got an awesome, there's a whole giant world out there full of cool things to learn.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely.
What would you say is like the strangest thing that someone like brought up to the counter that was trying to sell to you?
Mm, good question,
Yeah.
Cody. We see a lot of strange things. That's the thing. It's like when you get 50 people
Yeah.
reselling, in a place, you don't necessarily know everything that's there. And somebody comes up and they're like, "Oh, I found this," and you're like, "Really? Like, you wanted that? I didn't know anybody would want to sell that thing."
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of like the thing, but just as an example, there's like, I think maybe a good example is like Beanie Babies,
Yeah.
in the '90s.
I remember those.
Yeah, so Beanie Babies, little little stuffed animal toy, right?
Mhm.
Were made for collectors in the '90s. So that was, they were made to be collectible. And then, then McDonald's gave them, in the drive-through, and they just because they were wildly popular.
Yeah.
Everybody collected Beanie Babies in the '90s,
Mhm.
and then it was just so mass produced, and it's just one of those things where it's um, like any collectible, what's the value going to be like down the road? Like, will it appreciate in 20 years, or will it
Yeah.
not? Will it lose its audience, kind of? So that's one of those things where I think a lot of us in my world would think, yeah, Beanie Babies. Sure, there might be a couple kind of valuable collectible ones you see on eBay or something. I don't know, but by and large, they're just they're just something that you find in a rummage sale. Some
Yeah.
kid wants, whatever. They're really not worth anything. But surprisingly, there's still people that collect them. So
Wow.
people come in and ask for them, and sometimes we have some really good customer friends who come in and they have a massive Beanie Baby collection. I think over 400.
Jeez.
Yeah, and it was the last thing I ever thought I'd heard
Wow.
coming out of this dude's mouth that he's got this Beanie Baby collection. If you see this, James, you know who you are. But
Man.
but I thought it was kind of, so that's kind of funny. So just,
Yeah.
that's the thing, is just people like different stuff.
Yeah.
So you can't get, real bias. I definitely like what I like. I'm sure you like what you
Yeah.
like, and we might think everything else is that. But what I found with the shop is, yeah, just people like everything. There's something, there's someone for every type of thing. So it's really cool to, like, literally every day you can meet someone who's into something
Something completely
different.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll see something new every
Could
day.
be some glassware thing.
Yeah.
Could be some odd thing from, the 1950s or something. It could be just something kind of typical, like people who like records and comic books and, stuff like that kind of stuff. Um, Sports cards. So there's typical collectible things, but then there's just like, a weird Pyrex bowl from the 70s
Yeah.
that's hot, that people like, or, someone who's got a massive collection, you wouldn't think, but so people collect a lot of stuff.
They really do.
So, and I got a little bit of that in my blood. That's kind of what led me, and you got to have that in your blood if you're going to do that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's every day we're amazed,
Yeah.
you know.
And like I like to go to your store a lot because most of the time
I was going to say, what do you like to collect?
I'm a comic book guy,
Yep.
and sometimes comic book stores don't have the stuff that you guys got.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
it's kind of like, just, it's like having, um, like if it was, like for instance, back in the '80s, we had like 8 record stores in town. I think 7 or 8 or maybe more.
Wow.
Yeah, so you could literally, take the city bus and get off at every different store and go look for like a record,
Yeah.
and they're, some of them are going to have the same ones and some of them aren't, or but I mean, it's definitely like that. We have a little bit of everything old and nostalgic, and again, everything we have is used. So we don't really have brand new stuff. We have a really awesome um, vendor who sells cookies.
Oh.
Shout out to Busy Bee.
Yeah.
Um,
I tried them the
yeah,
other day. They're actually really good.
they're amazing. They're
Definitely worth
blowing
it.
up.
Yeah.
But obviously, she makes cookies, weekly for the shop. And we have another vendor that makes lip balm and a bunch
Okay.
of that kind of stuff, and which is amazing product. And other than that, everything is like at least 20 years old. You know what I mean? So it's vintage. Um, so yes, you can find some old records, maybe some old comic books, something different. Um, and that's kind of what makes it fun. You don't know what's going to show up. Um, with so many things. It's literally like if you walk in and get lucky and it was there, you got lucky.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, that's actually just, I think, the fun of the store. I like places like that.
Yeah. You can always switch it around every time I'm there too. Like,
Yeah, yeah, things change. I
yeah.
mean, vendors change stuff, um, and stuff moves. So just new merchandise is literally coming in and all the time. So yeah, it's good for variety. Keep you on your toes.
Oh yeah.
So comic book, you like comic books.
Yeah, I'm a big comic
What
book
else?
dude.
Anything else?
I really like wrestling. I had like a wrestler
Yep.
on my podcast not too long ago.
Cool.
He's like an indie wrestler.
Nice.
He's like part of a tag team called Ghetto Gear Solid.
Okay.
I'm trying to go see him,
Yeah.
but like he's always in like Michigan,
Hmm.
which is kind of far drive.
Yeah, I grew up in the '80s, so I know wrestling.
Yeah.
But like we get a lot of, so we, like wrestling figures are kind of popular, like
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan and all that kind of stuff. Like I think that stuff is probably '80s, '90s era.
Yeah.
I got a couple like toy guys that are into that. But yeah, wrestling's like one of those like categories, like sports cards, or action figures, or well, like for example, like Tonka trucks, which is, a kid's toy from literally the 50s, or whatever. I mean, forward. So there's all the eras of that. There's people that are just into those. So yeah, there's lots of categories of stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But um, I like comic books, so we usually have a little bit in the shop. I mean, I like to have things represented in the shop that obviously are, you know, things I'm into, and I'm into records, I'm into comic books, I'm into nostalgic toys. I'm into '80s stuff big time. I mean, I love video games and arcade games, and I love hot rod car culture scene. gas and oil.
Yeah.
I like mid-century stuff. You know, those are probably a few of the things that I kind of gravitate toward, and I
Mhm.
can definitely appreciate kind of everything else that shows up in there. So yeah, it's cool. It's fun meeting people that are into their thing.
Mhm.
So
And I see that you guys like sell like old vintage cameras too. Because my friends like really obsessed with like vintage cameras.
that's another thing
Yeah.
I'm into. Well, I was when I was in college, I was an art major and an emphasis in ceramics and photography.
Yeah.
So in college, I was shooting, you know, black and white film and processing it and printing off our pictures and all that. So yeah, I was kind of a photography nerd back in the day. That's part of my young self coming back. So I love cameras. I just
Mhm.
think they look cool.
They do.
Yeah. So I and it actually kind of amazes me. A lot of young people are wanting to buy old cameras, and they're like, "Can we get film for this?"
Mhm.
So that's amazing. And so yeah, I definitely there's just stuff like that that I like.
Mhm.
So and I have a few vendors like for sure we have a few camera guys in the shop, so you can always find them in different areas all over the mall. But yeah, that's I mean whatever you do, you have to just be authentic. You got to put yourself into it. And so really, I wanted the store to be you know uh, kind of an example of who I am, my vision. My wife, who's with me now, running the shop, it's her vision,
Yeah.
um, and that's what makes it kind of fun for us. But that also changes. I mean, there's things that I'm starting to think are kind of cool that I never was into, but that's
Mhm.
what a store like that'll do to you.
Yeah. Is there any plans you'd say for like the future? Would you ever think about like opening up like another location somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. Um, it's I would say yes. There's always possibilities.
Yeah.
Um, but I think my biggest thing is like I want to do whatever we're gonna do. I want to do it well. So I want to make sure this place is, um, at its best before I start doing any other projects. But yeah, we got all kinds of things um, that we think about as far as like maybe another location
Hmm.
or something like that. Um, but it's my store basically houses kind of like 50 people who have their own independent businesses. You know what I mean? Like all the vendors are kind of like independent contractors, you could kind of call them. So
Yeah.
some of them, it's like just kind of for fun, selling, little side hustle. And then some of them, it's kind of like their business. Like it's an LLC.
Yeah.
It's their thing and their brand. Good example is my son, and his brand is Threads GB,
Mhm.
and he, has a kind of significant. He's kind of the anchor vintage clothing guy in our shop, and he's got a website that he recently launched.
Mhm.
He's got you know significant inventory in the store,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of cool just that we have our kind of own brand, but we
Mhm.
also kind of house all these different people who do really cool things
Yeah.
and are growing and to see what they'll turn into. So
A lot of people like the 80s, 90s fits, especially for even like working out too. It's
yeah,
really surprising.
yes,
Yeah.
kind of surprised me too because
Yeah.
that's what we were wearing in high school,
Mhm.
and it's all coming back. I think that's awesome. I think it's so great to see, you know, 20 somethings or teenagers
Yeah.
why thinking that stuff is cool because it is cool. It was my old era. I lived it, so I
Yeah.
know it was cool. Gen X, Gen X. Shout out to
Yeah.
all the Gen Xers. You know who you are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Even like people are wearing Jordans now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It never went away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's probably the thing I think that kind of surprised me the most with the shop is just a lot of young people come in and think it's a cool place. That's probably the thing I'm most grateful for because my wife and I spent a lot of time with young people in education, and that's kind of who we are. So, but I love it, man. I mean, you know, everything keeps changing. So
A lot.
my vintage is going to be different than your vintage. My antique kind of is going to be different than yours, and that's what's cool about it.
Yeah.
So we need the younger generations to come in and start defining what they like and what they're into, and you don't have to collect tons of stuff and be a hoarder or whatever,
Yeah.
but you can appreciate cool things from the past. And yeah, if that's a cool old chair that looks awesome in your house, or some piece of furniture, or some decorative thing, yeah, enjoy it because they don't make them anymore. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So find something that was made well 50 years ago and give it a new life. So sustainability, that's kind of the other, I think, part that is a kind of natural consequence to an antique type of mall. I mean, we obviously want to keep stuff out of the dump. We don't want everything going to a landfill. Um, and there's a lot of good stuff, so it like lives on. That's I didn't fully. I mean, it's like, of course, if you like old things, but I didn't realize how that really impacts a lot of young people.
Hmm.
Young people think it's cool to be sustainable in 2025,
Yeah.
and I agree 100%. So,
I'm just surprised that vinyl is like coming back too. Like a lot of people love that.
oh, it's huge.
Yeah, it's so huge.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I listen to all my vinyl on 70s equipment, so, it that kind of stuff needs um, it can need a little maintenance. It can need a little love to keep it going, but it just to me sounds like the best.
Yeah.
So, but vinyl's great. I love it. I love seeing young people coming in, getting into record players, and
Exactly. Yeah.
because it's just cool. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
actually, to me that was like my older sister. Had records,
Mm.
um, and when I was coming up, I mean, basically, as a teenager in the late '80s, I was more the CD generation.
Hmm.
So, and CDs are actually pretty big now too,
Yeah.
and cassettes. Um, so yeah, it's kind of cool. I like music, so I'm always interested in that. And
I always try to like switch it up, like my genres all the time.
mhm.
Like lately, I've been listening to a lot of like '70s music, or
Oh
like
yeah,
maybe like trying to get into like '60s, like older. See
yeah,
why people love it, you know?
yeah. Well, yeah, you got to try it out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some classic cornerstone albums that have literally shaped music history, and you got to know what they are. And I look at it as at some point you encounter them. Like I think especially in your 20s, all of a sudden you get to that point where you're like, oh, I got to check out, you know, like yeah, I hear the Beatles or whatever, but unless you really have deep dive the Beatles
Yeah.
and really know all the deep cuts and understand, or as a most obvious example, but there's a lot of really good stuff. Um, I mean, I'm 51 and I'm still discovering lots of cool music. Um, it's fantastic. That's what makes records kind of fun.
Mhm.
Is you can get an old box and you find the weirdest looking one. You're like, I gotta check this out.
Yeah.
Like, what is
It
this?
actually sounds really good
And then
too. Yeah. Yeah.
you gotta go play it. Shout out to Rock and Roll
Yeah.
Land.
Great dude.
Um, we love Todd. But yeah, it's so much fun because again, you just discover stuff, and so I'm doing that with everything. Records are only one little
Yeah.
sliver of what I like, but yeah, we get our hands on a lot of stuff, and we get to check it out and learn about it. And there's a lot of really cool historical things that it's just good vintage. Maybe I should have named the store Good Vintage. I don't know.
A lot of people get really angry when you say vintage though.
Yeah.
Like from the last one I did at Game Trade, when I
Oh
said,
yeah.
"What do you think that retro is?" or something like that. People were like arguing in the comments saying that that's not 20 years. It's supposed to be like Sega. Sega's retro.
Oh right,
Um,
retro. Retro is kind of the other word that
yeah.
is used. Um, and yeah, I mean, I kind of we literally looked up the definition of antique versus vintage so that we can have clear um, just clear communication like with our vendors and stuff and what we expect in the mall and things like that. So I didn't realize like 20 years. I mean, 20 years ago was 2005.
Yeah.
That's vintage. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
don't seem like it. It don't seem like it, but I think of vintage. To me, vintage is more like I don't know. I would say in the last 50 years
Yeah.
is probably how I feel vintage is. Um, and then yeah, antique is definitely to me like I would say
100. Yeah.
70, 80,
Yeah.
100 years, turn of the century, type of thing. It's like that's how I think about it. but yeah, retro. I mean, what is retro? The '80s? I don't know. They're all kind of interchangeable terms, I think, a little bit. Um, but that's one thing we require our vendors to have, old stuff. So, you know, so we have to kind of define that, and because we don't want, hot topic T-shirts and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and just, stuff that you're getting at the mall yesterday. You know what I mean? So let it grow. Let it grow for 25 years,
Exactly.
then bring it in. So, but yeah, I think everyone. I mean, I know our vendors do a great job. They have a really awesome understanding. I mean, I learn so much from them all the time because everyone's just into different stuff. So,
Do you have like a select few that you like?
I mean,
Seeing them like a lot.
some we see a lot
Yeah.
just because they're very active, and some, you just, people are busy. It's a booth, an antique booth is typically it's a side hustle for people that like to collect.
Mm.
Um, and I think, that's basically what it probably has been forever. Um, and we've got a really awesome community, so I can say I know all of my vendors very well, pretty well. Maybe except for a couple new ones that just snuck in. But I'll get to know them, and my wife knows everybody. We have a pretty tight knit group,
Yeah.
um, and we kind of work closely with them because I want them to succeed, and we all enjoy, finding treasures. So we're kind of friends who all like stuff,
Yeah. I like that you help everybody out.
Yeah, yeah, we have a real community, and I'm just proud of that. That we've kind of built that. Again, that's just who me and Katie are, and and but as far as like, having a booth, um, yeah, there are some people who work really really hard at it and do really well. And then there's some people that it's kind of more of a like for fun, or they're retired and they're just, they've always wanted to do it and make a little side money and give them an excuse to buy and sell some stuff. And so that's what's kind of cool about it is, it doesn't have to be like super serious. It can be this kind of fun, casual thing. We like it to be fun,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but we really have a mix of everybody. So yes. So I don't play favorites. I like them all.
All
Yeah,
equally.
yeah,
Okay.
they're
You
all
said
good.
you're first.
It's kind of like a classroom,
Yeah.
Do you have favorite students? I don't know.
I
I
know
mean,
some do. Yeah.
sure, sure, some probably do, but it's kind of like,
Yeah.
no, but we really have great people. I mean,
Yeah.
we got great people, and I kind of feel like we work hard to get the right people that we think are going to do well, on Velp Avenue in Green Bay, Wisconsin, at our shop,
Yeah.
and um, so hopefully they all feel that way too. Um, but yeah, and every one is different. Every shop is just different. Your vendors are basically kind of creating the culture of the shop by what they're bringing in and how they're displaying it. So it's important to the overall identity, I think. And if you go to antique malls, all over the state or the country, you'll see that kind of different personality with each one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my shop, it's, I think it's got a strong uh, look of who I am and the people we've assembled, kind of like the Avengers. We've assembled this team, right? You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's all good. It's fun.
Did you think it was going to be as big as it is, like today? How it is today?
Um, I guess what I thought is it is the type of business that um, there's people like me. I'm a guy who shops at antique malls. You're a guy who shops at it,
Yeah.
right? So we're a couple of guys who like to go to these places. And there's a lot of those people out there. And I think there's always going to be,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
It's never going to die off.
no, I mean it's just it's again we're kind of recycling history.
Yeah.
And I will go into any antique mall I drive by because I'm curious.
Yeah.
And
You don't know what you're going to find.
yeah, and I have a lot of respect for people that find cool stuff. And so you know, um, that's how you get like a talented vendor. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to get good stuff. Um, you need to find. People thrift.
Yeah.
People garage sale, people flea market, people buy on marketplace. I mean, there's a lot of ways to acquire things and then resell. And so it's like it's more than just selling your junk. You know what I mean? So there's kind of an art to it, I think. So I really I think that's the thing that I guess that maybe I didn't think of day one. I kind of thought, we just Green Bay needs a place like
Yeah.
this. So that was my first thought. But it's really turned into a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm,
It's
I'm
huge.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just I'm like I said, I just like to whatever I'm doing, I want to do it well.
Yeah.
And my wife is the same way. We have a high bar for ourselves and my son. Um, so actually both of my children are that way. So yeah, so we just that's how we are.
Yeah.
And that's how it's evolved. So I guess yeah, it's just and who knows, in 5 years it'll probably be shaped a little bit differently too. So, you know.
Oh, and I asked you to bring in like one of your holy grails of comics.
Oh
You
yeah.
said that
You
you were
want
a
to see?
huge comic book collector.
I like comic books.
Yes.
It's one of my things. I brought in for you Amazing
Shaun.
Amazing Spider-Man 129.
Okay, okay.
First appearance of the Punisher.
Yeah. Might have to bring it up to the camera a little bit.
Let me bring that up there. Let me
Hey.
show the kids at home.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So this is one that a lot of people know of in the comic book world. It's a
Yeah.
hot book right now. And this is my first copy that I kind of recently got.
Mhm.
And I'm stoked, man. This is good stuff right here. So I finally got it. Yes.
Those are really hard to find.
Yes.
Any like old Amazing Spider-Man comics are so hard to find.
Yes. Amazing Spider-Man is probably one of my favorite titles. That's probably been, that's obviously a huge, super popular title. But that's probably been the one since I was a kid. I was a Spider-Man kid.
Your Spider-Man, so was I. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Him and like Iron Man, maybe a little bit of some Transformers.
Yep, yep. Spider-Man was that was my number one as a kid.
Yeah.
It's never changed. Although I do I love X-Men, I love Fantastic Four, I love all the big ones, you know what I mean? So I definitely am more of a Silver Age era and Bronze Age is kind of, where I grew up in that kind of 70s and early 80s and all that. So that's definitely my wheelhouse of what I like, what I just know as a kid. But again, in the world of art, all the new modern stuff is mind blowing. It's amazing. There's so much good art and good story writing and all that. So huge shout out to the whole comic book industry. Comic Tom, if you ever see this, we got to get you up to Wonderland is what we got to do. So, um, but yeah, that's one of the many things I'm into.
Yeah.
I'm fond of lots of stuff. I love lots of stuff. So, and again, who knows what's walking through the door tomorrow? That'll be my new obsession, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like it was a couple weeks ago. I was at in Appleton at Powerhouse Comics. And,
Yeah.
like Zach was telling me that comics got him into art.
Mm-hmm.
So like the outside of his shop,
Yep.
he painted all himself
Yep.
with like
Oh yeah.
different
Yeah. Right.
characters. Yeah.
Oh, he did
Yeah,
that.
he did
Oh
that.
wow, that's cool.
And he told me that he didn't he didn't draw it in his style. He drew it in like how they drew it.
Oh right.
I was
Yeah.
like, but you still drew it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
looks incredible.
Yeah. That's a lot of work right there to do that. That's pretty cool. And that's what's kind of fun about, you know, you kind of enter a hobby
Yeah.
from one point of view, and as you just keep getting into something, it just grows. I like I said, comic books are one little sliver of kind of my life, but I don't read a ton of them. I like cover art.
Yeah, same.
So
Yeah.
I'm just like so I like that. But I have friends who like artist drawn art. Um, actually like produced art, comic book related. Yeah, which is a whole category of collecting and expensive. And some people just want to read. They just read. They're readers, and they want the story and they're so yeah. So it's kind of cool,
Yeah.
And there's so many things like that where I like advertising, and that's a big thing in like the antique world. Gas, oil, radio, TV, and all that kind of stuff is pretty common. But again, it's kind of like Ford or Chevy. Which one do you like?
Mhm.
People kind of lean towards certain brands, And so I find myself um, maybe kind of changing up what I think I like,
Yeah.
and going, actually maybe that is kind of cool. You know what I mean? So it's fun to just see old stuff, and get something in your hands
Yeah.
and have an experience with it. I mean, that's to me, that's what it's all about. That's life.
Yeah. And another person I'm gonna be having on here in the future, he does like a lot of like art murals around
Hmm.
Green Bay. His name's
Yeah.
Bo Thomas. I don't know
Oh
if you know
yeah.
him.
Yep. I know his work.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. He has like
Killer.
one of them was like Bart Star like downtown.
Yep.
It's
Oh
insane.
yeah. Yeah. He's got a lot of stuff.
I don't know how he does that.
I'll be looking forward to that episode
Yeah.
because I'd love to meet that dude. Yeah, his mural work is amazing. Definitely beautifying the city all over. A lot of good stuff. I love seeing that. I might need a mural on the side of my shop one day. I
That'd
don't
be
know.
sick.
Maybe we
Yeah.
got to figure something out. Bo, who knows? Contact me.
That'd be insane.
Um, but yeah, that's cool. Yeah, the world of art and design is, since that was how I came up as an art student,
Yeah.
and just being somebody who liked to make art and then teach it was kind of that whole, again, I thought I wanted to be an artist or do something in that creative field. And, by the time I got into teaching, I was in my late 20s, and getting married, starting a family, and all of a sudden getting into teaching was just like, kind of never thought I would do that
Mhm.
ever, you know. But I was ready for that, that opportunity presented itself, and that ended up being just like one of the greatest things I could have done. It was one of my best decisions was to just go all in on something that I would have, I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be a teacher. So
Who like inspired you to like be a teacher? You'd say.
I definitely would give a shout out to my sixth grade teacher, Tony Birkin. If you watch this, Tony, but he was my sixth grade teacher at MacArthur Elementary in Green Bay,
Okay.
and just a great guy. I think probably because he was my first male teacher I had, so I had all these women, wonderful, wonderful women teachers.
Yeah.
But Tony was the first guy, and in sixth grade had a big impact on me, and just um, kind of gave me the attention I needed at that age, and was a real kind of professional kind of guy, well spoken,
Yeah.
and just I just really looked up to him, and he always made that impression on me. But I had a lot of great teachers. I mean, in high school, I had a lot of great teachers, and they all definitely inspired me. My whole educational experience is really what I think. Um, Kind of inspired me to get into education and to teach. It's like if it's kind of like paying it forward. Someone does something for you, opens the way. You then in turn should go teach someone else or something, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I've had a lot of experiences in my life with that, and I like to be coached and love having a mentor, and I like to mentor people and I like to coach people. So that's what we should be doing with each other is keep growing and helping others evolve that way. So that's why when I start my podcast, I'm gonna have this guy on,
Oh no.
and I'm gonna give him some tough questions. Um, but yeah, so but education was a really, really awesome time in my life, and I think one of the things I like the most about what I'm doing now is there's so many things that remind me of being a kid. There's all this nostalgic. I mean, even like a comic book from the '70s. Um, there's just stuff that kind of brings you back to the moment.
Mhm.
And again, my those things for me are different than like yours, and my kids, they're thinking of something that was, from the early 2000s or late 2000s. That is their childhood. Shout out Plants vs Zombies,
That game was so fun.
right?
So fun.
You know the music. You
Yeah.
know the music. Yeah, we just put that on the other night, and everybody was like, "Oh
Yo.
yeah, this is taking us back,"
Yo.
So we had fun with that. Um, but I think that's just one of the fun things about life and enjoying is taking the time to notice that stuff and embrace it, have fun with it. It's like, okay, go, get the item, get the thing.
Mhm. Just go do it.
You just go do
Just
it.
go
Just
do
go
it.
do it.
Yeah.
We only do this once.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know order dessert. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I am. I think me and my wife are kind of that way, and it's so that definitely goes hand in hand with the world we're in, the vintage world. Um, it's cool, and the other thing is once you try it, or you get into something, what's it like to collect, anything, comic books or whatever,
Yeah.
some kind of cool glassware. I don't know. Go collect some. Then you know.
Yeah.
And if you grow from it, you're like, okay, cool, I'm good now. You're good. But if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
So that's um, that's how I operate. Try everything,
Yeah.
right?
So what would you say is your advice to the world? Because I always try to have one each
Advice
episode.
to the world.
Advice to the world. Yep.
Damn.
Viewers.
God dang, that's deep.
Yeah.
Um, love, one love. Now, my advice is absolutely it's help people, be good to each other, have faith. First and foremost, I guess, people. I talk to people about my shop and starting all the time, and the point in my life when I realized that am I ready to quit a teaching career? Most people teach for about 30 years, then
Yeah.
retire. You get a pension. Life can be good for a retired teacher and all that kind of stuff. And so, I don't know. For me, I mean, it's like as much as we enjoy stuff, you gotta have faith. You gotta have a spiritual life. You have to be guided in other ways that are not materialistic things. So that's probably the great irony with me and my family and my life and doing all of this is it's fun, it's awesome, but at the end of the day, we don't get to take anything with us.
Mm. That's
So,
true. Yeah.
so what does it matter, right? We get to collect stuff, buy stuff, sell stuff, enjoy it, but so you gotta. So I would say work on yourself. Have faith, find God, know who God is in your life, find something to be directed by. Help others, take care of people. Um, you do that, everything else is like you get to play with the toys and have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again,
Have fun.
none of these comic book you could bury that comic book with me. I mean, maybe they should, right? But I don't actually get to take it with me, so I got to enjoy
Sadly,
it while I
yeah.
can. But yeah, and so let's see. So that is part of my advice for the world. And then the other one is, you absolutely pay it forward. Teach somebody something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Help somebody, mentor somebody. Um, Go find somebody that needs something and reach out and help them. That's what I say. We now more than ever we need more of that. People working together as a community, helping their neighbor. Um, that's that'll never end. That's been the beginning of time. That's how we made it this far, and that's the only way we're going to make it in the future.
Yeah. It's true.
Amen,
Yes.
Cody.
Yes.
So, yeah, man.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, what else you got for me? Anything else?
I'd say
I mean, we're both wearing red, so we got
that's
like
kind of strange.
this is
Yeah.
Spider-Man vibes right here. This is total Spider. This is like a
Man's
Spider-Man
matching me.
outfit.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We playing this.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what would you say was the most expensive item at your store?
Ah, that's a good question. We have stuff at our shop literally from under $1
Mm.
to thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's kind of the
Jeez.
other cool thing is, you can buy you can buy a button for like a buck or two, and then you can get. Well, I have some large paintings
Yeah.
that are worth thousands.
Yeah, a couple grand. I
Yep,
seen them.
yep.
Huge.
Big oil paintings from
Like,
the
big as
1920s.
this wall back here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're about 7 foot by 4 foot, so they're pretty good size
Yeah.
oil paintings from the 1920s. Those are thousands of dollars. I have a lot of like advertising stuff. That stuff is expensive. Thousands of dollars for old enamel, signs and stuff like that. Um, so that's the thing is there's just you never know. I mean, we have coins, jewelry. We deal pretty much in sterling silver. Shout out Mitch. Um, you know who you are. And but we don't do a lot of gold.
Really?
We don't really have gold.
Huh.
A little bit, but but my guy, I got a guy.
You got a guy.
I got a guy,
Okay.
and he specializes in estate sterling silver. And the nice thing about it is, A, it's affordable.
Yeah.
It's sterling silver, so it's good quality. Gold and silver, those are your two precious metals you want to deal with. Everything else is junk, right?
Yeah.
And he's just got a killer collection. So we have the probably the biggest assortment around of estate jewelry. Um, so of sterling, and it sells well. So ladies, come find a ring at Wonderland. We've got all the estate rings. Um, but yeah, other than that, it's like that's the other cool thing is what's stuff worth in this day and age based on how maybe scarce it is or you know finding value for stuff. That's always something that's kind of like we kind of learn about that every day is you just uncover stuff and kind of realize, okay, I did not know this was worth that,
Yeah.
and trying to attach a value to stuff, which again, what's it worth? It's worth something to the person who collects it. You know what I mean? Like if so something could be worth nothing to me, but it's worth a ton to you.
Yeah.
Um, but we can both agree that Amazing Spider-Man 129, we'd both be fighting over that one,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So,
Man.
but yeah, I mean, so that's just part of like what we kind of deal with every day. It's just what learning about stuff, and of course eBay. You can check in a comp on what did something sell for.
Yeah.
Um, so it's kind of fun. It's just like everything kind of has a market. During the pandemic, comic books, sports cards, collectibles, went up. People were ordering stuff online because everybody was trapped at home.
Hmm.
So a lot of that stuff, the pricing skyrocketed. It's coming back down to probably, I think it's come down to like normal levels pre-pandemic. But so different factors like that can drive value in things.
Yeah.
And that's an obvious example. Most basic stuff like we have in the store is just because of its age and condition is what pretty much what ends up determining I think value and kind of collectability of it. So and there's just stuff that's always kind of hard to find. Could be dishes, could be glassware, could be something that's kind of a common thing. But so yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Do you have any events coming up for your store at all?
Well, we got the draft.
Yeah. That's gonna be crazy.
Yep, the 2025 NFL draft
Yeah.
is coming up in April, and we're preparing for that.
Yeah.
We'll probably have some extended hours that week, um, and we're just being prepared for hopefully more people coming into town and hopefully shopping. This fall we're going to be having a kickoff for like Christmas, so we're going to have a very specific kind of Christmas launch
Okay.
end of October. So that's one event that we've just been kind of getting hammered down a little bit here, um, because they're just Christmas shopping is huge, So and Christmas vintage Christmas stuff is huge. So we like to have a good supply out for everybody and get all the good stuff so everybody can find their treasures. So we're gonna do something like that this year. What else? Otherwise, we have like the local shop hops. We just had one. There's gonna be another one in fall. But yeah, we're this year we're kind of like trying to come up with some different little events and stuff. But otherwise, we are open 6 days a week.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
great. It's wild.
yeah. So we're here all the time. Closed on Wednesdays,
Mm.
but otherwise we're around. Come find us when you're bored. Stop by.
Yeah. Is this what you thought it would be? Like this podcast? Is this what you were
Yeah,
thinking it was gonna be
yeah.
like?
I think so.
I always ask everyone that too.
Yeah, I like it. I
It's
think
just a
it's great.
conversation. A lot of people are scared of the microphone. A lot of people are
No,
scared of the camera.
it's a conversation.
You'd be surprised. How
Really?
many shops say no?
Oh,
This is
really?
the camera.
Oh, yeah. No, it's. I think yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's pretty fun.
It's a chance to sit down, hang out. I like to talk.
Okay.
I like to drink coffee. So I like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So no, it's all good. The only thing that would have made it better is if we had some food.
That's what I'm saying.
So we
Yeah.
could maybe you do like a breakfast one sometime where we're eating scrambled
Yeah,
eggs.
that'd be crazy.
It'd be awesome.
I'd definitely be down for that.
Yes, you could come up with like the dish for the podcast, and that could be now we're talking concepts.
Yeah.
So, but no, I like it. I wanted to say thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Appreciate
You're
you.
welcome anytime.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you being a customer of Wonderland Vintage Market.
Well, thank you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you again for being on. Honestly, a pleasure. Check them out. What street are you on again?
So we are at 1712 Velp Avenue, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Wonderland Vintage Market. We are open 10 to 6 weekdays. Um, Weekends basically 10 to 4, noon to 4. We may be extending hours and permanently. You don't know.
Okay.
I'm gonna drop that one. That could be changing for the better. For the weekend hours. Closed on Wednesdays. But yes, come find us, northwest side of Green Bay. All your vintage treasures waiting for you at Wonderland.
Yeah. And one of the biggest shops in maybe even the state.
Absolutely, 8,000 square feet.
Yeah,
so I would,
huge.
Yeah, so I would say come visit us. We've got two awesome shops. There's two shops in our parking lot. We are a destination. So you come here. There's a lot to see. A couple places to go. So. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Take care.